Good. Okay. So we will call this September 4th general meeting of the San Mateo City Council to order. And we have some distinguished guests here tonight to bring in the flag for us, former council members of the city of San Mateo. So let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Come on down.
Please advance the colors. And post the colors, please. And Madam Mayor, if we may, we would like to begin the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please join us? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, want roll call first?
They're gonna.
Okay, so we're going to turn it over to our former council members who were so delighted could be here with us tonight to celebrate this. Why are we getting a reverberation here? Is it okay? Better?
Yeah.
To celebrate the 125th anniversary of the city of San Mateo. And we thank each of you for your service. Madam Clerk, are we going to call upon our former council members to...
Yes, we are asking them to introduce themselves to the community again, give their years of service, and a birthday wish to the city of San Mateo.
Happy birthday to us.
Thank you, thank you.
Claire Mack, I served 12 years. It seemed longer sometimes, but thank you, San Mateo.
I think it's the handheld microphone that's maybe causing some issues for us. Where is... Okay.
And we don't have it.
Are you going to do it again? Would you want to do it with a handheld mic instead of that? Let's try that.
Good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to be a San Matean. That's the first thing. I've lived in San Mateo for 82 years, served on the city council for 12, and was involved in city government more like 20-something. And it was all fun, all wonderful, and I'm glad to be a San Matean.
Hi, my name is Jack Matthews. I served on the city council from 2003 until 2015. And I had the pleasure of being the mayor twice. It was a great honor to serve our city. And I always felt, being on the council, that it was our job to be stewards of the city, to preserve the quality of life here, and as best we could, make it just that much better. And I'd like to think that we've done that and really set an example for all the cities on the peninsula. One of the things that I was pleased to see was that the corner of 3rd and El Camino has now some buildings there. And if you recall, our dear departed John Lee, that was his greatest wish. And so, John, wherever you are, we finally did it. And someday, maybe we'll have a public plaza. Okay?
Want me to go?
Hi, my name is Carol Groom. I served on the San Mateo City Council from 2000 until 2009, and was honored and blessed to be mayor twice. Like everybody here, I love this city, and it's been good to me, and I hope that I've been able to help it just a little bit.
Hi, I'm Fred Hansen. I served in 2009, and I really got the pleasure not only to work on city council, but on the Public Works Commission and on the Planning Commission during what I think was the greatest period of transformation of San Mateo into what it is today. I'm standing with the people who made the changes, and I am just pleased to be with them tonight.
I'm Sue Lempert. I served from 1993 to 2005. I'm also a long-term San Mateo resident. And to the young people who are here today, I hope you realize how lucky you are to live in San Mateo. And in the many years I've lived here, there have been many, many changes. I think the biggest change, we were able to buy a house for $16,000 with a GI loan. So a young family was able to get their dream house. So a lot of things have changed, some great, some not great, but all in all, when you look around what's happening in the rest of the country, we are very lucky to live in San Mateo, and we have a great council to take care of us. Thank you.
And my name is David Lim. I was on the council from 2009 to 2017. I served as mayor in 2013 and 2017. My wife decided no third term for me because I have two girls in high school up at Hillsdale, and I have a young 7-year-old who plays San Mateo National. And you don't get to be on the all-star team unless you have a dad in the backyard throwing you pitches for hours at a time. So that's what I'm doing now. And I love it. And for those of you parents who are there or kids who are going to grow up and stay in San Mateo, remember that our city is only as good as the people who get involved. And we've got 5 wonderful people who are leading our city right now, but we need all of you to get involved, to speak up, and do what you think is right to keep our city as great as these 5 folks are running it right now. So stay active, everyone, and I'll see all of you guys on the council one day very soon.
Allow me to give a toast anyway. So first of all, thank all of you for taking time to be here today. We couldn't have been here without you, and we appreciate the service that we received from you as a city. I have sort of a 3-part toast. The first part is I would like to thank those that came before us for having the vision to create this beautiful city. I'd like to thank those that came, an expression of gratitude to those that came after those that incorporated the city up until the present day for their fortitude to keep the city going and indeed to make it thrive. And the last expression that I have is an expression of hope. For those that come after us, may you continue to nurture what we call the beautiful city, this gem, the city of San Mateo. So here's to 125 more. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Carol. Thank you, Fred. Thank you. Now, we're going to have a photo op, and then, did you kill my mic? We're going to have some cupcakes. It really is getting to be like a wedding.
Yeah, right.
You going to officiate?
You can't have a birthday party without cake.
Exactly. Wait, you guys turn around one more time. Attention.
Come on, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay, for the audience, if I could have your attention for a moment. What we're going to do is we're going to ask you to come up. You're going to come up this aisle. We're going to release each one. Kids first. We have 125 cupcakes, and you get to take one cupcake and then go back this way to your seat. So we'll release you out the center aisle, and you'll come back on the side aisles. We'll do both sides at the time. Okay? So you get to go first. It's fondant. Isn't that cool? They did a great job, I think. Okay.
All dispersed. Does that go after? And I was like, sorry, I'm sorry. What kind of challenge? Reinvent what? What? Reinvent what? Our future. Oh, yeah.
I will.
Okay. So now,
All right.
now that we're on a sugar high, this is not on.
Thank you,
this
everyone.
on?
We're going to convene the meeting again.
Hello, hello.
If we could have your attention.
Okay, don't.
So now that the room is on a sugar high, I know that we have some of our neighboring cities that have come tonight to express their good wishes to the city of San Mateo. We welcome them. I think we should start with Brian Perkins, who is a representative from Congresswoman Jackie Spears' office. Come on down, Brian.
Is this going to work? Thank you, Madam Mayor. Congresswoman Spear has placed a statement into the congressional record in honor of the 125th birthday of this town. I'd like to read the last two paragraphs, and I'd also like to thank the person who removed all of the sweets from from being near me. The last two paragraphs read, San Mateo is a microcosm of the best of our nation. Rare is a day when a hawk does not soar overhead or a child exclaim in joy in Central Park. At the county hospital, a physician will save a life or counsel the despondent not to give up hope. Up the hill, students attend to their coursework at the College of San Mateo. Residents know that the best pie on the planet is to be had at Heidi Pies. If the otters at Curiosity Science Museum don't bring a smile to your face and joy to your heart, you have no soul. 125 years after the city's founding, the kite servers off the city's levees have it right. Go with the wind and find your way across the choppy waves. Excitement is in San Mateo, California, along with joy, genius, generosity, and tremendous pride in the United States of America. Congresswoman Jackie Spear, and congratulations on your 125th birthday.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. What a celebratory day and an important day. And as a younger city, I think Belmont looks to you all as our big sisters with 125, and we're under our centennial. So you tell us where all the great vacation spots are, where all the great dates, you know. Since my name is Davina Hurt, I am the mayor of Belmont, and it's an honor to be here with all of you to celebrate this time. We've had great collaboration, and we look forward to many successive years of collaboration, doing things together.
Thank you, thank you.
Good evening, my name is Councilmember Charles Stone. I grew up in San Mateo, and I'll be very brief. I just wanted to say that 125 has never looked better.
Oh, you always say the right thing. Great. Well, let's come down and take a picture.
I know, you've seen me so much. Yeah, Marie too. We are very excited to be here to celebrate this auspicious day and occasion with you. I am Sean Christensen, the mayor of Hillsborough, and I'm fortunate to have my esteemed colleague, Marie Chuang, on our council also with me here today. And one of your council members, your illustrious former council members, said it was good to be a San Matean. I can testify it is also good to be a neighbor of a San Matean. So we are just a bit younger than you all are. We're 1910. So we also celebrated a centennial not terribly long ago. But we wanted to just note, first of all, our congratulations on all of your behalf for having such a wonderful, wonderful city that is, a leader in our community. And we wanted to note that from early on, the city of San Mateo and the town of Hillsborough have maintained a collaborative relationship that resulted in shared efforts to build roads, treat sewage, and develop shared water facilities. And in 1918, mutual aid was established between the two entities when the Hillsborough Fire Department assisted the San Mateo Fire Department in putting out a fire, and the city of San Mateo recognized the value of shared services and better fire equipment. And whereas today the well-established relationships and collaborative efforts between Hillsborough and San Mateo provide exceptional services that enhance the quality of life for residents in both communities. Hillsborough is proud to share excellent public high schools, library services, recreation programs and recreational areas, entertainment venues, restaurants, and other businesses, healthcare facilities, and infrastructure systems with the city of San Mateo. And whereas you are celebrating your 125th year after it's today, now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the town of Hillsborough hereby honors, commends, and congratulates its good neighbor, the city of San Mateo, on the celebration of its 125th anniversary, expresses gratitude for the many years of fruitful collaboration, and wishes all the best for the city of San Mateo's future. Congratulations and happy birthday.
Before we move on to baseball, we've got a little skit that we'd like to share with you about what's happening in San Mateo this Thursday night. Do I need to tee it up anymore? I feel like I'm on TV. I don't know what the film is about, but okay, go. Okay. This is a clip. I'm so excited for San Mateo's 125th anniversary as a city. We're going to have so much fun downtown on B Street on September 5. You know, I really wonder, what were things like back in 1894?
Mayor, I need your attention. We really need a sewer system. It's a huge mess. People have outhouses. That's not good. Things are flowing to the creek. It's a big mess.
Mayor, I disagree. We need more housing. Our population is approaching 1,200 people. But we need to make sure we're taking into account current residents' quality of life.
I know. These are big city problems, you two, but we will solve them together. Maybe things haven't changed that much.
Join us for September nights on B Street.
You can't get enough of us. Oh my God. Okay, so now you know, this Thursday night, starting at 5 o'clock to about 7 o'clock, we're closing off B Street in front of the movie theater between 2nd and 3rd, and we will reenact an old-time city council meeting. We actually have the minutes from some of the very first meetings of the city of San Mateo, so we'll be taking up some similar issues that they took up, like no bathing in the bay naked during the middle of the day, and things like that. So we have lots of issues that we'll be taking up, and it should prove to be a heck of a lot of fun. So please come down. We've encouraged restaurants to have takeout boxes so that you can bring your food to the area that we've set up, and we'll have wine and beer, and we will also have some piano and ability to learn the waltz. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So join us. All right? Now, anything anybody want to add? That's it. I've done our promo. Okay. So now we will move on to San Mateo National Little League. We're so delighted to have you here. May I have, I think Dan Hibson, Jeff Gilbert, and Adam Jacobs are going to come down and start things off for us. Welcome.
Wow, I don't think this could have happened on a better night. I can't even, well, I'm speechless. Thank you very much. I wrote a little something. I promise it'll be brief. First of all, thank you, Madam Mayor, and all esteemed council members for the opportunity to recognize both San Mateo Little Leagues and the recent success that two of their all-star teams had. My name is Dan Hibson, and I have the privilege of being the athletic supervisor for our great city. One of my duties is to allocate all athletic fields to all our youth sports and adult sports organizations, in addition to serving as the main contact for the city whenever our youth leagues need anything. Both San Mateo American and National Little Leagues are volunteer-run organizations and provide an affordable opportunity for our youth to learn valuable life lessons through the wonderful game of baseball. In addition to recognizing the success that their respective all-star teams had this past season, I'd like to recognize and thank all the volunteers that help foster an experience that is, in my opinion, an important part of helping to develop happy and well-adjusted individuals. I'd especially like to recognize National League President Adam Jacobs, and last season's field coordinator and currently just elected president for the upcoming season in 2020, Jeff Gilbert. From American Little League. These two individuals, in addition to all the other coaches and board members, spent countless unpaid hours doing everything in their power to provide the best experience possible for all San Mateo Little League participants. At this time, I'd like for all players and coaches from American Little League 11U All-Star Team to stand up and to be recognized for their outstanding season. Next, of course, I'd like for all the players and coaches of the National League 12 and under All-Star Team to stand up and to be recognized for their outstanding season. We will be recognizing all these athletes individually after my speech, which will hopefully be over soon. Okay, page 2, and almost over. After this presentation, we'll be congregating in Conference Room C, and for all Little Leaguers and their coaches, out here to the right, to pass out certificates of excellence to each player and coach. On behalf of the City of San Mateo's Recreation Department and Sheila Kanzian, I would like to call up Mr. Jeff Gilbert, they're already up here, and Mr. Adam Jacobs to receive a plaque from our city for recognizing the outstanding efforts and achievements for each league.
Sheila, are you coming up?
American, if you can get that open, there you go. And National, here you go. I believe Jeff and Adam would like to briefly address the council in addition to providing each one of you with a gift. You guys can take it away.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. We appreciate and are honored to be here. We appreciate the recognition. On behalf of San Mateo National, it's an honor for me to stand up here as president, but there's a lot of people behind me and even behind them that make this happen for our league and for San Mateo American. And so on behalf of all the volunteers, I want to thank you guys for again having us here. Thank you to the volunteers, the coaches, the players, all the dads and moms that play catch with their kids in the backyard. And I especially want to thank all the previous all-star teams that have come before us, because there were some good ones, and they paved the way for us to succeed. And thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Madam Mayor and the City Council, I appreciate you having us here tonight. Timing, they say, is everything, and I was just installed as president in July in time for this to happen. So I have very little to do with this. It's really about the coaches and the players, and there's a couple of past presidents behind me. Brian Haverty is here, who was president when I first joined the board. Fred Wolfgram, who is our just outgoing president, who paved the way for all this to happen, is here. Robin Camisher-Gordon, who's our player agent, and all of the other board members, Mike Conti, they're the people, the board, that put in hundreds of volunteer hours each and every year so that these boys can do what they do, and that's just to play baseball and have fun. It's been an amazing experience for our run. Lots of trips to the East Bay at commute time, and it's been baseball, baseball, baseball. A lot of these boys played in Japan after the All-Star tournament and represented San Mateo very well over there. So it's been a long, great, fun baseball summer. And again, thank you very much for the opportunity to be acknowledged in front of all of you.
Those don't go away. So we do have some acknowledgments. Yes, sir.
One quick thing, and I know Mr. Gilbert also has, on behalf of both leagues, we wanted to present you guys with all-star hats for you, of course, to wear every day from here on out.
Okay, so hold on. We'll come down and get those in 1 second. Don't you hold that hat. Hats. All right. So we do have 2 certificates that we'd like to give to each of the leagues. Let's see. San Mateo National League, which was founded in 1955, and then the San Mateo Little League American, founded in 1960. Long before any of us were born. Okay, so these leagues have brought hundreds of San Mateo residents together to positively contribute to the growth and development of our youth and the well-being of our city, and continues to bring youth players, families, coaches, and the entire community together through their dedication to providing the best baseball experience possible. And whereas Little League is a youth baseball organization that supports the philosophy of creating winners whose victories are not solely achieved by the numbers on the scoreboard, but by the lifetime of memories they collect along the way. And whereas Little League teaches San Mateo youth the fundamentals of batting, fielding, and base running, as well as hustle, hard work, and the importance of having fun on and off the field. And whereas Little League coaches provide the highest standard of instruction appropriate for each age group without sacrificing the value of play, favoring positive motivation opposed to the pressure to win. Whereas the league is committed to providing every instructor with the tools to successfully teach sportsmanship, loyalty, and respect for one another. Now, therefore, I, Diane Pappin, Mayor of San Mateo, on behalf of myself and the entire City Council here tonight, do hereby recognize the board, the youth, athletes, parents, coaches, and volunteers of San Mateo National Little League and San Mateo Little League American. So thank you for all you do in making our little slice of Americana perhaps a little more Americana with baseball. So with that, I'll bring these down to you. Let's go get our hats. So anyway, thank you for all you do. We have certificates for you, and let's take pictures. Shall we?
Your hats? Yeah. Grab them right behind you. Those are national.
Oh,
you want? We're going to win this year. Just saying. These guys are going to be 12 next year.
Okay. Here. All right.
You don't want to sway voters. You want to be fair, right?
Yeah, we're being fair. Get on the both sides. No favoritism. Thank you again, gentlemen. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it. And then do you have these?
Everybody should get one of these.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you.
With pleasure, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Bonilla.
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember Goethals.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Frechette. Here. Mayor Pappen.
Here. Okay.
Let's give it a minute. Am I working?
So we should move on to consent calendar, which will be item numbers 3 through 9. Do you think you can do it, or you want to wait a second?
You okay? All right. Under the consent calendar, all matters listed under the consent calendar are considered by the council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion without discussion. If discussion is desired, that item may be removed and considered separately. Item number 3, repeal sidewalk vendor regulations ordinance adoption. Item number 4, local amendments to the California Energy and Green Building Code ordinance adoption. Item number 5, 1812 South Norfolk Street Police Department use adopt uncodified ordinance. Item number 6, East San Mateo Sanitary Sewer Lift Station Rehabilitation Project and Agreement. Item number 7, 4th and Fremont Green Infrastructure Improvements Agreement and Appropriation. Item number 8, El Camino Real at State Route 92 Landscaping Improvements and Agreement. Item number 9, Board and Commission Subcommittee Community Relations Commission appointment.
Okay. Does any member of the council want to remove an item from the consent calendar? No. Okay, and any member of the public ask for anything to be removed?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so we'll entertain a motion.
I move approval. Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, so that passes 5-0. So now we will move on to item number 11, which is the high voltage and LED streetlight conversion program update.
I think item 10, green infrastructure plan approval.
Oh, 10 does come after 9. So those Arabic numbers, they get me every time. So let's go to 10, green infrastructure. Do you want to do public comment? Let's do public comment. That's what Rich is here for. Do we have any public comment speakers?
I do not.
We have one and I believe another gentleman here. You can turn in your card. Members of the public wishing to comment on any item not appearing on the agenda may address the City Council at this time. However, please remember this state law prevents council from taking action on any matter not on the agenda. Your comments may be referred to staff, however, for follow-up. Public comment is limited to a total of 15 minutes. However, an opportunity for additional public comment may be provided later on in the agenda. Mr. Hedges, good evening.
My wife wanted me to make this comment. She's head of our landscape committee at Harbortown, and the maple trees on Fashion Island Boulevard. I think the maintenance of that particular strip is the recreation department, Park and Recreation Department. They are not getting water. It's clear they're dying if they're not already dead, and they're beautiful trees. Okay. So I would have made it directly to the, my apologies to the department, but I thought I would take this time to just mention it now so we get something done and satisfy my wife.
Okay, terrific. We'll direct that to the powers that be, which would be Park and Rec. And then, not a different topic. So that was our only public comment. We'll close public comment, and then we will go to item 10. Welcome. We must have, who's Sarah Scheit?
That's me.
Scheid.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, thank you. My name is Sarah Scheit. I'm the Regulatory Compliance Manager for the City of San Mateo. And I'm going to talk to you about green infrastructure tonight, which I think it's a great transition. 125 years ago, we were talking about, putting sewage into pipes, and today we're going to be talking about treating stormwater, which was something probably they didn't think of back then. So an overview of my presentation today, basically green infrastructure is required for compliance from the municipal regional stormwater permit. The permit requires us to demonstrate our commitment from a transition from traditional gray stormwater conveyance to a more sustainable green infrastructure. This is basically managing stormwater from public and private property, including streets, storm drains, parking lots, roofs, and other elements. We're required to submit the green infrastructure plan to the Regional Water Quality Control Board with our annual report at the end of this month. We've been to the Sustainability and Infrastructure Commission twice, once in June and once in July. At the July 10th meeting, they did recommend that you approve it through a resolution, and that's why we're here tonight. So the purpose and goals of the Green Infrastructure Plan, like I'd mentioned before, is to transition from gray stormwater drainage to a more green infrastructure. Some of the other goals of the requirements are that we align all of our planning documents with our Green Infrastructure Plan, or at least make sure that our planning documents don't prohibit the implementation of green infrastructure. So for example, the general plan will need to have green infrastructure language in it that supports green infrastructure. The bike ped master plan, the Central Park master plan, all of these different plans will support our commitment to green infrastructure. It also establishes targets for installing green infrastructure over time. The permit requires us to provide a work plan, which council approved actually in July of 2017. It requires us to make sure that we have the appropriate legal authority to require and implement green infrastructure, and to evaluate funding mechanisms as well. We are required to establish a tracking, mapping, and reporting mechanism, which I'll get into a little bit later. And our plan actually provides a lot of flexibility as to how we will ultimately install and implement the Green Infrastructure Plan. So green infrastructure, this is a slide that demonstrates how green infrastructure can manage the many problems related to stormwater runoff and provide some additional community benefits as well. Green infrastructure creates a more balanced landscape and can help return the landscape to a more, well, almost like it was in 1925, but not quite. Or I'm sorry, 1894, 125. So these next couple of slides demonstrate a transition towards a more sustainable streetscape that integrates multi-benefit and complementary infrastructure enhancements. On this slide, note the lack of space for pedestrian mobility, the large-scale lighting, lots of hardscaped and paved areas, there's no trees, and the very wide travel lanes. This is where we would like to head. Green infrastructure is a component of sustainable streets. This is a sustainable street, which integrates stormwater components with more complete streets elements, including more canopy from trees, some pervious paving, which will allow the stormwater to infiltrate, reflective surfaces to make it more safe for pedestrians and bikes. It integrates rain gardens and stormwater treatment through curb extensions and biotreatment. Green infrastructure provides multi-benefits, like I mentioned. It increases natural habitat. It also helps manage flood risk, increases safety, reduces heat islands, and it helps keep our water local. So this is a slide of our existing green infrastructure locations throughout the city. This represents both private and public development where we have installed green infrastructure. We have almost 50 acres of development in the city that have been subject to Provision C3 regulations, which is another section of the permit that requires private development to install low-impact development or stormwater treatment on site. Some of the existing projects for the city include the Delaware bike lanes, Laurel Elementary School, and Poplar Corridor. We also have a few projects in the works, such as North San Mateo Drive, East 4th Avenue in Fremont, and some more on Delaware at 5th and 9th Avenue as well. We're also currently reviewing our upcoming pavement resurfacing projects to see where we can install green infrastructure for public projects. This just demonstrates that the city's been sort of a leader in green infrastructure throughout the region, as we have demonstrated a lot of projects that are already implemented. This is just a couple of the examples where we've installed green infrastructure. The one on the left is actually the Poplar Corridor safety improvements, and the one on the right is at Laurel Elementary School. And that was done as part of the Safe Routes to School program, where we received some grant funding. So I forgot to introduce my support person. This is Kristen Kerr. She's from EOA, and she is our consultant that helped us develop the green infrastructure plan. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to her, and then I'm going to come back at the end of the presentation for a closeout.
Okay, thank you. As Sarah mentioned, the Green Infrastructure Plan is required by the San Francisco Bay Municipal Regional Stormwater Permit. The Regional Water Quality Control Board has been issuing MPDS permits to control municipal stormwater pollution since the early 1990s to 76 agencies in San Mateo, Alameda, Contra Costa, Santa Clara counties, and the cities of Fairfield, Suisun, and Vallejo. The current permit, the San Francisco Bay Municipal Regional Permit, we refer to that as MRP 2.0. So you'll see that acronym perhaps throughout the slides. CCAG addresses issues of regional importance to San Mateo County jurisdictions, such as congestion management and water quality. Stormwater technical assistance for MRP compliance is mostly conducted through the San Mateo County Water Pollution Prevention Program, or SMCWIP. SMCWIP's 22-member agencies include 15 cities, 5 towns in the county of San Mateo, and the San Mateo County Flood Control District. And Bay Area regional support is conducted through the Bay Area Stormwater Management Agencies Association, or BASMA, and SMCWIP is a member of BASMA. The MRP, or the permit, requires that the city's green infrastructure plan include a mechanism for prioritizing areas of potential GI opportunities. CCAG provided the methodology for identifying prioritizing areas for potential green infrastructure through the development of several products. The reasonable assurance analysis required by the permit is to demonstrate a reasonable assurance that stormwater pollutant load reduction goals in the permit can be met by the time frame specified. This involves using hydrology and water quality modeling tools, and from the RAA, each jurisdiction in the county received a tailored, cost-optimized implementation strategy specifying the amount and type of GI that in each subwatershed needed to meet the water quality targets. The Stormwater Resource Plan utilized a 2-step process to identify project opportunities and screen out sites that were infeasible for green infrastructure, and also to prioritize the identified green infrastructure opportunities based on quantitative multi-benefit scoring process. And the San Mateo Countywide Sustainable Streets Master Plan is currently under development by CCAG. The city's GI plan utilizes and builds upon these tools developed by CCAG. This is an example of utilizing those tools. This figure demonstrates how the RAA and Stormwater Resource Plan results are used as high-level tools to evaluate project opportunities and used for internal project prioritization. Just a little bit of an explanation about this figure. The RAA capacity shown in the figure by the colored regions represent the total amount of green infrastructure facilities needed for stormwater capture and treatment to meet the pollutant reduction goals in each of the sub-watersheds in San Mateo. The darker shaded sub-watershed areas are higher priority areas for green infrastructure since they need the most capacity. And the Green Street project opportunities identified in the Green Infrastructure Plan built upon the Stormwater Resource Plan results by adding city-specific metrics. And those project opportunity potentials shown as high, medium, and low in the figure are then reviewed with the RAA capacity results. The Green Infrastructure Plan includes a work plan on how the city may proceed to further evaluate and prioritize GI capital opportunities, and the strategies can be refined as funding and grant opportunities are assessed and ongoing coordination with various city departments. Currently under development is another resource for the city to use in evaluating green infrastructure project opportunities, and that is the San Mateo County-wide Sustainable Streets Master Plan. This effort is using geospatial data to evaluate the entire storm drain system and right-of-way infrastructure throughout the county, to overlay feasible project locations with other community plans and priorities related to the transportation network, and pair those opportunities with funding options. And the project will also account for climate change-related shifts in rainfall to better plan for the future. Sarah mentioned that one of the permit requirements is to have a process for tracking and mapping completed Green Street projects and making the information publicly available. As part of the Sustainable Streets project, CCAG is developing a countywide tracking tool to track projects and quantify performance metrics on both a city and countywide basis. This figure is part of the beta website for the tracking tool that is not yet available. The GI plan also provides guidelines, details, and specifications for implementing green infrastructure. Most of these come from the SMCWIP Green Infrastructure Design Guide. BASMA developed regional guidance for sizing non-traditional green infrastructure projects. And the city also developed new details and utility protection guidance as part of the Green Infrastructure Plan development and identified updates to current city standard details for incorporating green infrastructure.
Thanks, Kristen. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the city's specific approach to green infrastructure, and we're going to be able to meet the requirements through 3 different methods. One is at the parcel scale level, another is at the green streets level, and another might be through regional projects where we collaborate with other cities or agencies. At the parcel scale level, this would be on-site LID for mostly private projects and any city-owned projects like fire station remodels or things like that. We will be asking smaller projects that typically haven't been subject to the C3 requirements. Those are projects that create or replace 10,000 square feet or more of impervious surface. We're going to try and go down lower than that and ask, some maybe multi-use commercial residential facilities that might not have had to implement on-site LID to do so. For green streets, we are also going to be leveraging private development and public projects to install green infrastructure or green streets within the public right-of-way. We're hoping to do this for all projects except for single-family homes where it makes sense, where there aren't utility conflicts, and where it makes sense for the project. We did make sure that we have the existing authority to do this. We worked with the city attorneys, and they recommended that we do have the authority in our existing municipal codes, and that over time we might just add some minor language to beef that up, but that we do have the existing authority. We've also worked with them to develop some conditions of approval that we have already been trying to get into some projects for private projects. We're also going to be, again, prioritizing our own city projects, street resurfacing projects, trying to get grant money for those where we can. For regional projects, we will be looking to take advantage of those opportunities where we can. We haven't identified anything in San Mateo so far with any real potential that hasn't presented a lot of challenges so far. There's some projects in is it Redwood City? Redmorton Park. I think it's Menlo Park, Redwood City. But we haven't identified any within the city, but we'll definitely be looking into those. And there's also opportunity that we might eventually be able to work out on a county-wide level where we would contribute maybe funds to regional projects and get credit for those somehow. So that's another thing we'll be working on through CCAG. So the next steps for the Green Infrastructure Plan is that we need to submit it to the Water Board by the end of the month. Whether Council approves it tonight or not, it's not a requirement that you approve it, but we would like to have that additional support. And we will be focusing on ongoing implementation through, as I mentioned, the New and Redevelopment Program, and looking for city projects to install on-site and within the public right-of-way for green streets. We're also going to be seeking funding opportunities for city efforts. This will include searching for grant opportunities where we can. We also have a funding analysis that is going to be getting underway fairly soon, where we're going to be evaluating potential funding sources for all unfunded stormwater activities, including green infrastructure. So that is our presentation. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, Kristen and I are available.
Okay. Any questions from the council? Questions? Yeah, Godspeed. I hope we get a lot of funding to do it, and I followed it intermittently as CCAG was charting this out, so I know that's been a good resource of at least to show the Water Board where we could put it. We will, if there's no questions from the council, is there any public comment, Madam Clerk?
No, it's for the next item.
Okay, so we'll bring it back to the council. Would somebody like to make a motion to
I'd like to
approve?
comment, please.
Come again?
Like to comment, please?
Oh, sure. Go right ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sure. You know, I want to say that I remember when Joe and I were on the Public Works Commission years ago, we were seeing a lot of different parts of this that have now come together and becoming one larger, much more comprehensive plan. And I realized how much time and work this kind of planning is. I want to say thank you to you and all of the people throughout the county that I know who are out there working to develop a plan for us that's going to be comprehensive and save and really protect the waters of the creeks and the bay, and provide more water infusion into the earth where we need to have that. Change the way we build so that the pervious paving we'll be using will now be letting the earth get the water it should have been getting, limiting some of the water that's going to the creeks so they won't be eroding and causing other problems by high flows. So thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other comments, or do we have a motion?
Make a motion.
Okay.
That we adopt a resolution to approve the City of San Mateo Green Infrastructure Plan.
Second.
And we have a second. All those in favor of adopting?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed? That passes 5-0. Thank you very much for all of your work. And here's to future funding. So it's time, Mr. Yu, for LED lights. Come on down. Item number 11.
Let's see. Are the network drives connected? No. Must be the previous presenter. Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council. My name is Jay Yu, Engineer Manager here at Public Works. And today I will be going over a presentation in regards to the high voltage and LED streetlight conversion program. During the course of the presentation, I will touch up on a couple of points. To begin with, I'll talk about the LED benefits and where we're currently at with the citywide LED program. Then I'll touch up on the high voltage program and where we're currently at. We'll dive into some street lighting selection process and some of the design standards specifically relating to the high voltage program. We'll talk about and geek out on some photometrics in regards to lighting and how that compares with traditional lighting. And then lastly, talk about staff recommendation, as well as seek council guidance in regards to whether we should keep the existing design standard moving forward or modify the program. So first, as council, you're probably aware, there are various benefits of converting over to LED streetlights. Some of them include reduced energy consumption, decreased lighting pollution, lower maintenance costs, as well as help meet sustainability goals. One of the key components to this is also to improve lighting quality in the sense of color rendition. Color rendition is really how accurate a given light source can render light. And a good example is a poor color rendition under this light source. You won't be able to tell the difference between the color brown, black, or red. So with better quality, you'll be able to distinguish the difference in light and color. So where are we at currently with the LED street lighting program? Well, we've made significant progress. To date, we've converted about 5,300 street lights to LED, starting all the way back from 2013 to 2016. There's been various projects that have been put in place to make this happen. Unfortunately, we have not been able to convert about 500 street lights as a result of it being in a high voltage circuit. So why do we want to convert these street lights that are high voltage to a low voltage as well as LED? Well, there are various disadvantages to high voltage street lights. The first being safety. These street lights run in 4,000 to 5,000 volts, really high. And anytime there is damage to the street light circuit and it is energized, we will experience what we call an arc flash. The upper right-hand corner is in essence, a giant fireball, and that is what an arc flash will look like. That picture was actually taken in the field with one of our inspectors when we were undergoing a conversion program. Also, they're really prone to long outages. I think City Council is well aware of various neighborhoods that have high voltage streetlights, and anytime they're out, because of the technology being really old, there's a lack of expertise, and there are checks and balances in place that has to be done in order to de-energize as well as energize. These streetlights can be out at weeks at a time. I think Baywood as well as Los Prados are recent examples that I can recall. So where are we at with this? Well, we've made good progress as well. In fiscal year 17 and 18, City Council adopted a budget as well as making it a priority to replace these high voltage streetlights. The map to the right really shows, where these streetlights are located throughout the city. There's a total of 18 of them just spread out in San Mateo. In 2018, we converted our first 2 circuits in Los Prados. We're currently in construction in Baywood to convert another 2 to low voltage. It's estimated that we will save approximately $50,000 a year in energy savings just from these 18 circuits alone. So with that, I want to talk about specifically about the types of lights in our high voltage program, and it really consists of 2 types. The first type are what we call Cobra heads. These are streetlights that are mounted usually higher, 24 to 30 feet in height. Common applications include in collectors, wider roadways, areas with more vehicular traffic usually, and the color temperature tends to reside at 3,000 kelvins. Just for point of reference, the lower the number, the more yellow and orange, or some would describe it as a warmer color temperature. The higher kelvins, once you get to the 5,000, 6,000 and above, some would describe it as whiter light, more bluer light, if you will. And the lighting distribution for a Cobra head tends to have a broader and wider distribution, just by the nature of how high these streetlights are mounted. Second, we have what we call our pedestrian scale lighting. These lights are mounted roughly about 14 feet in height, so about half the height of a Cobra head. The applications include in residential areas, pedestrian dense areas, commercial districts. If you walk in our downtown, you would see a bunch of pedestrian scale lights in the corridor. Color temperature tends to be a little bit warmer for these lights in the 2,500 Kelvin range. And in nature, the lighting distribution tends to be more focused. So those are the two types of lights. I want to talk about what the existing specifications are and what we have designed and will want to move forward with. So first, with the Cobra heads. The existing properties include a color temperature anywhere from 2,200 kelvins to 4,000. In terms of color rendering, as we discussed earlier, it ranges anywhere from 30 to 70, 30 being not so great, 70 being a little bit better. And the wattages varies anywhere from 150 watts all the way to 300. What we're designing to replace these Cobra heads in the high voltage circuits are a color temperature of about 3,000 kelvins, a color rendering index of 80 and above, so improving in light quality, and a wattage that consumes only 29 watts up to 139 watts, depending on the type of roadway this is being installed on. And for the pedestrian scale light, the existing specs include a color temperature of 2,200 to 2,500 kelvins in the warmer area, a color rendering index of 30 to 70, and wattages that's very comparable to the Cobra head streetlights of 150 to 300. Our design for this is a color temperature of 2,700 kelvins, so in the warm range, and a color rendering index of 80 and above, so pretty good light quality, and a wattage of about 60. So those are the specifications we're proposing. I just want to jump through the timeline real quick of where and the progress we have made as a city as a whole in converting over to LED streetlights. So in 2013, we have converted 0 streetlights over to LED. As of 2017, we have converted 1,000, thanks to multiple phases of citywide conversions. In that 4-year period, the design standard that was used to convert these pedestrian scale lights that have been done are 60 watts for residential areas, 100 watts for collectors to arterials, and a color temperature about 4,000. Now, maybe I can answer that later. Today, we're really here to talk about the remaining fixtures, the 100 pedestrian scale streetlights that remain as a result of it being in the high voltage circuit. We are proposing to be consistent with the design standards that we replaced the previous 1,000 pedestrian scale streetlights, and that's a 60 watt for residential, but we are improving and adapting to technology and having a 2,700 Kelvin in terms of color temperature. In regards to the Cobra head streetlights, 2013, we have converted 0. As of 2017, we converted 4,300 as a city as a whole. And again, these are the design standards that we use for those 4-year periods. The wattages varies. For the high voltage program, we want to stay consistent. And again, for residentials, utilize a 29 watt fixture all the way up to 139 watt for arterial, and bring the color temperature closer to the warmer scale to 3,000 kelvins. So what does this all mean? Well, when we were designing for streetlights, and this is an actual model in the Baywood district, we wanted to have a control environment to simulate light to see what this means for an existing condition compared to the design and proposed LED. If you look at the existing incandescent light that's out there at Section A, you'll notice that there's a green ring a blue ring, and a black ring. The green means it's higher intensity. The blue means it's starting to phase out a little bit, and the black represents what's equivalent to a full moon. If you look at the design LED, we have the same lighting intensity or illumination. There's the green, there's the blue, and the black. But you probably notice that the distribution in light is improved significantly in the sense that it is covering more area with the same mounting heights, same fixture location. If we look back at the existing incandescent at the Region B, that is an intersection. That tends to be areas where there is high pedestrian traffic, potential for conflict with vehicles. And you'll notice that the existing light does not do a really good job in distributing the light in areas that is most needed. If you look at the design LED, you'll notice that the gap is reduced significantly. There aren't as many dark spots, even though there are some gray spots there, but you can tell that parts of the crosswalk are illuminated a little bit better. Next, this is another 3D render, and this is a top-down view, a bird's eye view, a plan view with multiple streetlights in sequence, so we can get a feel of how they work together in the neighborhood. If you look at the existing incandescent, I want to talk about uniformity. Uniformity, in essence, is how well does a light source from point A to point B distributes its light, how consistent that light is. And the more dark spots you see in between the two lights, the worse the uniformity is. So if you compare the existing incandescent to the design LED, you'll notice that the areas where there are dark spots are reduced. While it's not perfect, you can tell that we are bringing more illumination in areas that did not have it before. Second, I want to talk about light pollution. And this is a criteria that we do take really seriously and we look into. That is the amount of light that is being projected behind the sidewalk, if you will. So this will be areas that are in your front lawn, in your porch, in your bedroom window, in the front. And if you look at the existing incandescent, you'll notice that there's significant light that trespasses into private property, if you will. If you look at the design LED, in nature, you could tell that the cutoff is more prominent. So just a couple of feet behind the sidewalk, the light is cut off significantly. And that is possible by the advancements in technology. So what does this really mean? Well, we installed a design LED and compared it to an existing incandescent. A lot of the lighting properties that we discussed earlier with the existing incandescents not having illumination, having light pollution, are depicted in these pictures. I want to note that these pictures are taken with the same photo properties. So the same shutter speed, the same ISO, the same exposure to compare apples to apples. So if you look at the existing incandescent and you look underneath where the sidewalk is, the illumination is not where we want it to be. If you look above the streetlight, you'll notice above the streetlight, behind the streetlight is illuminated, and that's what we call light pollution. If you compare it to the design LED, you'll notice that the sidewalk as well as the roadway is illuminated. You'll notice that above the streetlight there is a tree as well, but that is not being illuminated because of the cutoff and the technology that is in place. And if you focus on just behind the sidewalk slightly, you'll notice there's a shadow. That shadow is the predominant cutoff that we were discussing that we experienced in the render. So lighting does not cast into a person's lawn, a porch, as well as their bedroom window. So to put that into context in regards to numbers, there are really two metrics that we look into, and there's various others, but two metrics I want to focus on when designing street lighting for roadways. And this is based off of the Illuminating Engineering Society. When we're talking about average illuminance, what IES recommends is 0.4 foot candles. The existing incandescents provides 0.06 foot candles of light, and the design LED is at 0.15. I do want to note that both scenarios do not meet the recommended value but the proposed LED or the design LED gets us closer. The same can be said for the uniformity. What's recommended by IES is 6:1. The lower the number, the better. The existing incandescents at 13:1. The design LED is at 9:1. I also want to state that brightness is really subjective to an extent. There are a lot of variables that go into play when one perceives light: illuminance, perceptive glare, color temperature, and uniformity. One person could see a light source brighter as opposed to another. So sometimes it's really hard to please everyone, if you will. I also want to note that what's currently out there is this pedestrian decorative light. What we're designing for is to have similar design aesthetics, and that's the street light you see there. But I also want to bring to council's attention, there are other options out there in the industry that could tailor the needs of lighting properties as well as addressing concerns that the public may have. I also want to talk briefly about a light test that was conducted in the Baywood neighborhood. We sent out approximately 1,100 notices. The majority did not provide a response back, but the ones that did, the 1% to 2%, were in favor of the existing lights that were out there. Less than 1% preferred the LED lights. We also reached out on Nextdoor to over 760 people, and as of today, I think about 67 people had actually clicked on the notice that we have sent out there. So really, in conclusion, I just want to direct council that we are making a policy decision on the entire high voltage program. This consists of 18 different circuits throughout the entire city. So with that, there's really two options I'm hoping council can decide on and help provide guidance. Option one is to replace the high voltage pedestrian scale lights with 60-watt LEDs at 2700 kelvins, replace the high voltage Cobra headlights with LEDs at 3000 kelvins, or option two, modify the lighting design standard for the high voltage program to match brightness of the existing pedestrian lights. Again, I just want to be clear that brightness is very subjective. And as of this point, if we do move forward with option two, we do not have a criteria in how we can meet that and make that happen. So with that, staff recommends proceeding with option one in order to improve lighting quality. Thank you for your time. Again, J.U. Engineer Manager of Public Works. I will be more than happy to take any questions or comments from council and the public. Thank you.
I think Councilmember Rodriguez has some questions for you.
I got a few.
I got my notebook here.
Okay. So first off, when you decided to run the test, why did you decide to run the test?
The simulation or the
simulation on Edinburgh.
So I just
the test of the different light bulbs where you got community feedback.
Oh, so the pilot project.
The pilot.
We wanted really to provide the public a realm of providing feedback of the lights that we are designing for.
So the feedback was overwhelmingly negative. And the way I read the feedback, it was not that the way I read the feedback, and from numerous conversations I had with residents within the area, the aversion was not that we want the old lights. We do not want the LED lights. That was not what I heard at all, and that's not what I read in the responses. It was more what new lights could we get that mimic the ones we have more closely? So when you said the majority of residents, they want to keep their old lights the way they are, that wasn't my take at all from reading the data. But another question I have is, so a lot of these lights have been in place for over 80 years. Approximately how many complaints has your department received in recent times of not having enough lighting on these streets, and also safety concerns? Do we have safety issues on these streets that better color definition would fix?
Yeah, I can't really speak for Public Works as a whole. But in my time in Public Works in regards to working with streetlights, and I can't specifically talk about just the ones, I guess, in this pilot project, but when we went through the citywide conversion, we did receive, if I were to throw a number, maybe half a dozen to a dozen people saying that they wanted brighter lights that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Through the chair, if I could add to that. So, Brad Underwood, Public Works Director. I've had some conversations with neighbors or residents in the central neighborhood, for instance, that want more lighting. And so, one of the challenges we have, and what Jay had showed you, is why we can't meet the standards, is because the spacing of lighting within the city, back when these subdivisions were built, didn't have the same required spacing as what would need to meet the lighting standards today. So we've actually had a lot of requests for additional pedestrian lighting, especially in the central neighborhood.
Okay. I had a couple questions for the police department, if that's okay. I don't know who that is. Hi.
Hi there. Captain Dave Norris for the police department.
So I totally can get, as a safety professional, how more color definition and more light is better. I mean, bad guys hiding, finding them, and all that. But I did want to ask you, what is the police department's perspective on this? Has there been a safety issue in Baywood and Aragon where your department has said, "Wow, if there was more lighting here, we could have caught that guy, but he got away"?
I don't know that I can give you any specific anecdotes on that. What I can tell you is that from a patrol's perspective and from a public safety perspective, that better lighting in the street area and on the sidewalk area where we have pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicular traffic, more lighting, higher quality lighting is better for us. I could also tell you that from the perspective of colors, because I know that was brought up, and I think I heard you say that just a moment ago. From the perspective of colors, we have a huge increase in street-facing doorbell cameras and other types of video security cameras that have been installed, where it would be highly beneficial to us to be able to tell the difference, as Jay explained, between different color shades, or between, say, a brown, a black, and a red for suspect identification, vehicle color identification, clothing identification, and other things that might help us get better definition. And that all speaks just specifically to these accessway areas, if they're better lit with a higher quality light.
Okay. These IES standards, I think that's all the questions I had for the police department. But for the IES standards, do they take into account what type of lights there are, or is it just the lighting standard of what it casts on the ground? Like, for example, if the light is just focused on the ground, like some of the Cobra ones, as opposed to the pedestrian ones that are kind of more like a glowing orb that you're walking down a hill, you can look directly into it.
Yeah, the standard that we use for IES is illuminance, and that's really defined by light projected at a specific area. They don't really regulate lumens per se in regards to how much light a street light provides, because in our practice, we really care about where the light goes as opposed to just how much light a light source has.
Okay. Last question is, did you look into other lighting? The 2,700 Kelvin, I think, is the closest we can get with temperature-wise. But did you look at any other lighting that was the same temperature, but just not as bright?
In terms of brightness, we had multiple fixtures that we did look into. Right. So yes, we did.
Well, but the problem I'm getting from the feedback from almost all the residents I talked to was the lowest rung on your bright, the one at on your pilot, the one at Fordham in Edinburgh. That was 2.5 times brighter than what we currently have. So I was wondering, do you have anything else that's maybe, 1.5 times or 2 times, like other options that maybe were as in that trade-off spectrum, less bright, but you're falling short a little bit on the standards. I mean, these lights have been there for 80 years, and they're a huge part of the neighborhood character. And so I can see that residents are up in arms, like when all of a sudden they're walking their dog at night and there's this orb right in front of them. So
we have looked at other lights, but one of the slides that we wanted to talk into is we wanted to stay consistent in terms of our lighting decision. We have switched over 94% already throughout the city, and we're trying to finish the last 6 to 7%, if you will. And our design criteria is, 1, does the performance meet the existing? And 2, how consistent is the threshold to the remaining lights?
So it's assuming that one type of lighting is good for every single neighborhood in San Mateo equally.
We looked at various models, and this fixture in particular that we have chosen is a good compromise to meet the luminance we're looking for.
Okay.
Any other questions? I have a question. Okay, go ahead.
I think Councilmember Rodriguez did a good job with the questions. Covered a lot of what I had been thinking. The question came up, though, that the lights are spread so far apart in that neighborhood because it is an older neighborhood. So that's why I think we're trying to put in some light that has better coverage. But I think that still begs the question, what about putting in some more fixtures to fill in some of those gaps?
That is an option. I think in order to meet the IES recommended levels, and again, our design team does this both for private development, so brand new construction, as well as trying to make our existing infrastructure work to the best of its ability. If we were to bring it up to IES recommended values, we would easily double the amount of streetlights. And I'll give Baywood X as an example in a specific area. That is.
Yeah. We have a lot of really uneven lighting throughout the city. I live on the block of 11th between B and Palm. We have one Cobra in the middle of the block. On the next block, there are 5 lights on the same block, right? So, I mean, talking about consistency, I'm not sure that really is going to carry a whole lot of weight here because we're very inconsistent. But if we're trying to do the job where we're providing for safety, comfort, improved experience, all these things, I think just the kind of light it's important. I think I read all of the comments from the public too, and they're used to a certain kind of light. It's been working there, and I feel much the way Councilmember Rodriguez was, that we're looking for something that more closely mimics what's there. Everybody said that I could see that they were in favor of the low voltage project, that they did like the idea of sustainability. They want us to save money on energy, but they really took exception with the brightness of the actual light itself. I really like the fact that it seems to face the sidewalk, into the street, into the intersection. We have different levels of lighting for the intersection versus the mid-block. That's all great design. I like that. But something I think we should look to see if we can do something more. I mean, is there such thing as LEDs that can be adjusted so that they're, like variable? Because I think, or else they just need to come in a couple of different levels. Regarding, I understand the police, they do need to have better discernment of color for witnesses to be able to give help to the police. But I know one thing, the dog doesn't need that much light. So if he gets there, they don't need to worry about, what color the sweatshirt is. Okay, those are my questions right now.
I have a question. As someone who has a 4,000 Kelvin in front of her bedroom window, I'd like to know about how we replace those, because let me tell you something, 2,700 don't look so bad. And my street became like day overnight. And what you were able to temper it I will acknowledge you tempered it as it flowed back to the house, to my house. You're lucky the tree grew. I'm just saying. But I believe it is harder for those across the street to either look at it, because when you showed me your picture, could you go back to that one, of Edinburgh when you show us? Yeah, so while the home we're looking at might have some protection, because it seems like you don't do it so it flows into their house, it is hard for those across the street. I will tell you that. So I'm just telling you, like for me, the 2,700, it looks tame, trust me, because I got 4,000, and I think we have at least 2 of them on my street. Had I known better that I could have complained, I would have. But in any event, I guess it does beg the question if this 2,700 is after the test. And I looked at all of them on more than one night to kind of take it all in. And yeah, Fordham and Edinburgh was certainly different than what was to the north on Edinburgh. I don't know what that one was or anything, but it seems like you're in the right direction, but you might not be fully there. That's what I would. You're not looking for comments, you're looking for questions. I just want to know, how much does it cost to change a 4,000 down to whatever you come up with?
Yeah, pricing right now.
But no matter of self-need in the question, really.
Yeah, and to adjust the color temperature, I guess, to replace a 4,000 to, say, 2,700 kelvins, right now, the construction price is anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 per fixture.
So with 1,000 fixtures, that's $1.5 to $2 million. So we're happy to do that if that's the direction the council sends us on.
Well, let me just ask you, how recently did the technology change such that now it's 2,700 as opposed to 4,000?
Really, I've been working with streetlights, I guess, when it was the thing to do since 2009, 2010. And at the time, if you recall, 6,000, 5,000 Kelvin was the norm. When we started the process here, I came from Gilroy, did that, and then started working on it here as well. When the design started happening in 2014, 2015, 4,000 was a breakthrough in terms of providing the efficacy as well as the quality of light. It wasn't until recently where one of our engineers, Jeff Tom, was working on Baywood that 2,700 kelvins was really available. So this is really relatively new.
Hold on just one more second. And what was the difference between the one at Fordham and Edinburgh and the ones that were north? Were they a different Kelvin, or why was one so more muted? This one actually that you're looking at.
It's more yellow. It was less.
And was it less Kelvin?
I can't recall exactly, but I do recall the pilot project had 3 types of fixtures. It had a 27, had a 3,000, and there's an existing. So it could be any of the 3.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Thank you.
I just want to make, how this came about when I was, I guess, complaining, because we were having a block party, and some neighbors on Georgetown, one block up from me, were saying, what is up? Like, what's up with our lights? We feel like we just moved into Hillsdale Mall parking lot, and I didn't really realize it. But then I walked up there, and then I was just like, I don't know what happened there. But then when I read that this was coming to other parts of the neighborhood, that was where I contacted Public Works and said, hey, what other options are there? And also, what happens if you put it in and there's a revolt? Because it completely alters the landscape when you're walking your dog at night. So that was how it came about.
One more question? So I'm looking at the administrative report, and in the last paragraph, right before budget impact, it says, should council want to match existing illuminations and color temperature and pedestrian scale lighting being converted, staff would recommend temporarily pausing the high voltage conversion project so additional study could be done on achieving this. So it sounds to me like there is something that could be additionally studied here.
Yes, I think we mentioned, during the staff recommendation slide, that is a possibility. We've also discussed in this slide here that even though these are the 2 type of fixtures, and the design high voltage PED scale light, that's the one that I think Eric, you've seen in Baywood. That's the one that we put out there as a pilot. There are.
That's the one I have.
Yes, that's the one you have too, Mayor.
They're nice looking, but they're just very bright.
Yeah, so there are other fixtures out there, as seen to the right, where we can address some of the glare issues as well as some of the brightness issues that the council has expressed.
Can this council put the kibosh on those last two options right now? Okay. Thank you.
Well, hold on. We got to go to public comment. Anybody else have anything else to say?
Madam Mayor, can I make a couple
Yeah,
of
sure,
comments?
sure.
So while this slide is up here, the reason why.
And you know what? Maybe the price will go down for the conversion.
If you.
Okay,
We'll just
go ahead.
paint them all black. How about that? While, I didn't feel you'd be in favor of these options we put up here, but the reason those work is because, a lot of what we heard was glare. And in the one on the right specifically, the light's up inside that cone, if you will, so that you're not going to get any glare really out of the light itself. It's going to go all onto the ground. So unless you're underneath it, looking directly up it, you're not going to really see any glare. So that's one of the main issues that we, if you read the comments, was the glare issue. But LED lights are inherently bright. I mean, that's just the way they're made. So there's really no solution that we have right now. Like Jay had indicated earlier, we can look into things, but we don't know what that is right now to take that, brightness out of it. Having, a standard light throughout the city is obviously best for us because of maintenance reasons. It's difficult, as Jay had alluded to, brightness and light is different for different people. So it's hard to meet everyone's needs. So, one neighborhood might like X light, somebody else might like Y light. And really, as your professional engineers, we see in this program an opportunity to enhance the lighting on the street, on the sidewalk where it belongs, and you can see that in the two different photos that Jay had showed you earlier. So, that's what we're trying to achieve. If the council wants a different direction, we need to know that you don't want to get, like Jay said, we can't meet the standard, but we're trying to get closer to the standard. If you don't want us to do that, we're fine with that.
Did you look at different frosted glass to kind of, if you can't change the bulb, could you make it so it's not, you're not changing the brightness of the bulb, but you're letting less light through or something like that?
That's one thing we've talked about, or a tinting or something. Now, do the manufacturers make that? I don't know. And then we're going to reduce the light quality to the ground. Anything we do is going to lessen the light that's on the ground, which maybe everyone's okay with. But not knowing that yet, that could be a specialty item which would cost more and so forth. But we'd be happy to look into that.
And when you say you're looking for lighting that's uniform, but right now we're talking about significantly lowering the Kelvin temperature, so that's not uniform.
And if I could just, in terms of uniformity, we're purely talking about illuminance uniformity in terms of metrics and performance in light.
Mm-hmm. So how would that work when you have lights, like in my neighborhood, there's one light fixture on the street. It's a Cobra style. But these are more pedestrian level, so the light really, it's not apples to apples, right? So are you trying to achieve that somehow?
That is correct. In nature, Cobra heads, because of how high it's mounted, it tends to achieve better uniformity. I think Rick touched on it earlier. Throughout the city, there are areas that are bright and there's pitch dark and then it's bright again. As a result of that, the only way you can combat that and really make it meet IES recommended values is just by installing more lights closer together. Hopefully that answers your question.
To the mayor.
Well, I was just thinking about consistency, when we're talking about doing consistency, but we have different kinds of light fixtures, so it's not really possible to be consistent.
Yeah, so
and have the same outcome.
Exactly, so one part of this, and Brad talked about this, is having less models, but more consistent models throughout, so we can have more consistent performance. So instead of having 4 different types of Cobra heads, we want to replace one type of Cobra head that will meet the performance metrics and the design criteria that we're looking for.
So for the Cobra heads, you can do that, and there, I don't think you'd get many complaints from anybody in the city, but for the pedestrian lights in Baywood and the Aragon, that's a whole different feel. And you can't replace those lights.
I can't replace those lights with.
Well, we shouldn't replace them with anything that doesn't look similar to what's already there. Okay.
Exactly.
So, go back to the other slide that shows your other designs, please.
This one?
Thank you.
Yes.
In my non-engineer mind, I'm looking at this, and I see this large bulbous thing that contains some kind of a light source in there. And then I look at the other one you pointed out that's like a cone and directs light down. And in my mind, I see a combination of the two, where inside of the large bulbous thing, there's a cone that directs the light down, right? It might not affect the brightness of, if the cone came down far enough inside of it and directed the light down so that you didn't see most of the actual light itself, right? Some design might be able to be made that met both needs there, right? So I don't know if that's an off-the-shelf thing you can find, or maybe we could get somebody to make 1,000 of them for us, since that's what we need, right? But it's an idea, something to think about.
Madam Mayor, one more comment. So we did obviously receive some comments when we put some of these lights in initially. So we worked with those locations, with the residents of those locations, and did some modifications to the globe. For instance, if you're standing across the street, because I agree with you, that's where you're going to probably see the biggest impact, and you're standing in your living room and the lights, glaring at you, there's a potential that we could do some shieldings within the light that could eliminate that, at least while you're standing in your in your living room, something like that. So there are potentials for some modifications when we would put it in the field, but we don't know what those really are until that we put them in. So I don't know if you want to take that risk. So.
Okay. So if the council doesn't have any more questions, I'll open it up to public comment. And I'm assuming we have a couple speakers, Madam Clerk?
At this time, I have one speaker, Douglas McClashen.
Okay. We have another one coming down. Okay, great.
Thank you. A lot of my concerns have been addressed by several of you. I was one of those who responded and walked up to see the new lights, and my wife and I were just shocked. It was so bright, it was so different. And part of what got us to buy the home where it is the charm of the neighborhood. It isn't a downtown neighborhood next to a parking lot where you need really bright lights because nasty stuff is going on. It's a very low crime neighborhood, and a lot of light isn't needed. There's not a lot of people marching around at night. There's plenty of light to go walking the way most of us do. And in the report, again, you get lumens and all this stuff, but it says here that the existing streetlights provide an average of 40% of the illumination compared to the new ones. In other words, we're talking about 2.5 times brighter. I mean, that has a real impact on you when you're walking down the street. And it's not just walking down the street. I mean, there is a light. Our corner of our properties here, 14 feet over, just across our neighbor's driveway, is one of those lights. Shines right into our bedroom window. Well, in the winter, that may not be so bad because we typically have blinds drawn and curtains and whatnot. But in the summer, when it's steamy around here, we like to leave it open with nothing but screens and a fan blowing in, which means that even as it is, we get light across our bed. It's going to feel like somebody's out there with a searchlight, and if it's 2.5 times brighter. And I have a lot of trouble with that idea. I'm partly curious. The report that was presented said that some people were in favor of the complete brightness, but most preferred the existing brightness. I'm curious what the statistics are. How many is some and how many is most? I would bet that of those who commented, the most vastly outweighed the some who said, oh yeah, I like having this flashlight shined into my face. So we're not talking about a theoretical concern. I mean, this is going to have a real impact on the nature of the neighborhood. So I hope you will ask these fine gentlemen to do more study and see if there isn't some way to meet more of the needs. Thank you.
Next speaker is David Fullerton, followed by Michael Nash.
Supervisor, Mr. Rodriguez expressed most of my comments, so I appreciate what he said. I live on Edinburgh Street, and like the mayor, I will too have the benefit of the shining across the street into my living room and my bedroom. And you're right, as I go out there, it feels more like the security on a military base to me than it does my neighborhood. And I've lived there for over 35 years. I do support the LED. I think it's a smart thing. I'm glad you're doing this. But there has to be a way to do less intensity. I said 2.5 times brighter is significantly horrible. And you've heard talk about a lot of standards and things you're trying to meet. I would hope that one of those standards is the neighborhood. Because we're kind of your customers, and right now we're giving you a pretty strong message. This isn't going to make it for us. All right, and so I urge you to vote in favor of option 2, which I believe was, let's go back to and find a way to lower the brightness down and to get the color intensity closer to something that we already have. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Michael Nash, followed by Drew.
Madam Mayor, City Councilors, just a couple of comments on this. Firstly, somehow the notification process eluded the entire Baywood Owner Improvement Association board. So, I was kind of surprised to hear about this when I first did. I love LED lights. When I redid my house, they're 100% LED lights, LEDs. And two things, they all have dimmers, and they all have shaped fixtures so that you can make the light do different things in different scenarios. I don't know if home technology projects upward here, but a dimmer might be an interesting thing if that's technically feasible to do. Love the project, but I think the neighborhood concerns need to be attended. Thank you.
Andrew.
Good evening. This is an enlightening conversation for me to hear. No pun intended. So, hearing the conversation, I'm struggling on a couple fronts. Like over 90% of the lights have been changed in the city. And also what's not thought about in that process, and they didn't cover it, is there's large areas of the city, the lights are on PG&E poles. And we don't have the flexibility to do a variety of things. And like the PG&E pole, and where I'm at, it's on a PG&E pole and it got re-aimed. And part of it aims into my house, we're at a corner, and on the other side, it aims directly into someone's duplex and stuff. It lights up the whole side, and it's a Cobra style. And I just think part of it might be, if we're gonna go to option 2, it's step back to the whole city and just kind of look broadly at the whole city. The mayor talked about the light. I mean, it's like, what about neighborhoods that are already been converted? Why don't they have a shot in making a change too? I'm not saying ultimately that happens, but I think there's kind of this hybrid of every neighborhood gets a voice, but also some consistency across, we're all paying taxes for everyone. And so there's kind of these two play of things that need to be balanced a little bit. And I'm not highlighting that, hey, we need a spotlight into people's bedrooms and stuff. It's just Like in our neighborhood, we'd love to have another street light on another PG&E pole where it's dark, mid-block and stuff. I don't know what it takes to get something like that installed. And it's almost like, what are some of the problems we're having with lighting? And then kind of what makes sense in the context of the money going to be spent and some stuff. Because I agree, some of those light styles aren't the most attractive, but you go to Google and I bet there's 1,000 different light styles and stuff. And it's, what about when the light gets changed in mid-block because something happens? Then you're going to have a bright light and then a dim light, mid-block, and it's going to look funky. And it's just, I'm struggling kind of with how to make it all work when so much has been done already. And I'm not saying just jam it into Baywood in this process. That's not my point and stuff. It's just how to balance all that. Thank you.
I have no other speaker slips.
Okay, great. So we'll bring it back to the council. If you could look at my street, we could talk. No, in any event, I'm assuming, I'm hearing there's some consensus with option 2, so I want to streamline the process here. Is that sort of, as I do a poll here with the council, it's kind of where you'd like to go? Okay, so let's take a motion on that. And a part and parcel of that, I would like to see if, with respect to the 4,000 at 4,000, is that about right? Do I have those numbers right?
That's correct. You're talking about the original conversion? Yeah, 4,000 kelvins.
4,000. Just with respect to maybe painting or doing something on the cheap, not replacing them all, but rather, is there a modification, as Councilmember Bonilla had suggested, if that could be a part of your option 2, and I don't know that it is, but I don't want to spend a lot of money, but
We can issue sunglasses to your block. No.
night glasses.
We'll look into that and we'll come back as we are evaluating option 2.
Okay, so do you need a formal motion then for option 2? Is that, or you?
I don't think so.
You don't need it, okay. All right, so I thank you for your openness, and I appreciate the comments that the public gave. I appreciate the comments that council gave, including my own. I know, I can't get off it, can I? But thank you, and we look forward to coming back and seeing what we can do. Thank you so much. Okay, so we'll move on. I hate to make it about me, but what about me? Okay, as I understand it, that puts us into going into closed session. Before we do that, are there any other announcements from any of our council members or our staff? Yes, Councilmember Bonilla, please.
Today I received an email. You should see a poster on the screen right now.
Okay.
From Rethink Waste, which is the South Bayside Waste Management Authority. I'm a member of the board there. We're going to be having our annual poster contest for 3rd through 5th grade students. And I actually emailed this to the superintendent, Joan Rosas, at the San Mateo Foster City School District also.
Perfect.
But I want to make sure for people who have kids in other schools, they see that this is available. You can go to the Rethink website, Rethink Waste website, but this is a contest for kids only in our jurisdiction, which is, I think, Atherton, Belmont, Burlingame, East Palo Alto, Foster City, Hillsborough, Menlo Park, Redwood City, San Carlos, San Mateo, and parts of unincorporated San Mateo County and the West Bay Sanitary District. So it's not open to everybody on the peninsula, just our kids in these areas. And for our kids here in San Mateo Foster City School District, I want to make sure it's a great opportunity. Your art gets highlighted. You get to participate in a contest. It's always fun to win. And so thank you very much for that. Also, I want to mention that Peninsula Clean Energy has a incentive program to help people buy electric vehicles. It's going to be starting soon. We're actually offering free test drives at different facilities. We have events. If you go to the PeninsulaCleanEnergy.com website, you can see the free test drive sites and dates that will be there. And if you're interested, then after driving some of these cars, many people do become much more interested. Not only does the dealer, we've negotiated the dealerships to offer discounts. Peninsula Clean Energy also throws another $1,000 on there. You can save a lot of money. And if you're a low-income resident, you get an opportunity to buy a used plug-in hybrid at a great discount because they're coming back off of leases now and they're available. So
it's not low income, right? It's up to 400% of the.
it's what we call low income here in our county.
400% of the.
No, that's not the program I'm talking. We have two programs.
Yep.
One is for buying new EVs.
Right.
Okay. The other one is for low income people to be able to buy used plug-in hybrids.
And I hear that the state is actually thinking about a $5,000 refund.
Yes.
Tax credit for buying a used
car.
Electric car.
Yeah. So anyway, many doors are open right now. If you take a look, there are opportunities. Thank you.
Oh, certainly. So should we give our B Street, our September nights on B Street one more plug? I'll turn it over to the clerk. I think she'll do a great job promoting it.
We invite everyone down to Nights on B Street. The first one, Thursday, September 5th, is going to be a really fun reenactment, skit, lighthearted look at early action in the city of San Mateo from 1894.
Can't wait. Yes.
One more. Next week, I can't believe it's September already. Next week is September 11th. We will be commemorating September 11th at the fire station as usual on the morning of September 11th, followed by a JPB board meeting. So.
And then our next council meeting is? September 16th. Okay. All right. I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Mayor Frescott. She would like to adjourn this evening in memory of someone she's going to tell us about.
Thank you. I wanted to adjourn tonight in memory of Lena Della Chiese. She was a lifelong resident of San Mateo, and she passed away on August 17th at the age of 85. She actually enjoyed a really long career in banking and bookkeeping, and Lena is survived by her husband, Vince. She had 2 children, Carrie and Dan. She has 4 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren. And she and her husband, Vince, were longtime friends of my family. So I grew up knowing them, and she was a wonderful lady. She had a great sense of humor, very sharp, and a real devotion to her family. So she will be deeply missed, and on behalf of this council, I would just like to extend our deepest condolences to the Della Chiese family. So if we could have a moment of silence, thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll adjourn and go into closed session? Okay.